Good evening. The government may submit a detailed proposal for the planned voluntary private health insurance scheme as early as the end of the year. According to Secretary for Food and Health, Koh Weng Man, the government is considering setting a time limit for high-risk people to join the scheme. And the authorities will avoid giving financial support for the scheme without limits. To ease the pressure on public health services, the government has been planning to introduce a voluntary medical insurance scheme that will divert those who can afford it to the private sector. Secretary for Food and Health Koh Weng Man said today his team will present a detailed proposal of the health protection scheme to the Legislative Council in the next few months. The scheme will require guaranteed acceptance for applicants, including high-risk people such as the elderly or those with chronic illnesses who currently have a hard time getting companies to insure them. For this, a consultancy report released earlier suggested the government inject funds into a high-risk pool to share the cost with the insurers. The proposal would allow those who are at 3 times the risk of normal clients to be accepted within the first year of the scheme. A year later, an age ceiling may be added to limit the scheme to those aged 40 or below. Koh said this is because it will be taxpayers' money going into this high-risk pool, so it must be well controlled. The report also suggested the scheme set minimum coverage and benefit levels. Koh said insurance fees are expected to go up by about 10% if minimum requirements are set, so the government will consider introducing other incentives such as tax concessions to attract the middle class to use private healthcare. But a patients' rights advocate said high-risk patients will still face insurance fees several times more than normal clients. Tim Pang of the Society for Community Organisation said the quality of public health care isn't far below that of the private sector, so it'll be difficult to divert patients to the private sector with the scheme. He said the government should reevaluate the scope of public health care services in the long run.
In Europe, talks have begun in the Czech Republic after a snap parliamentary election left no party with a clear majority. The negotiations aimed at forming a coalition government could be complicated and drawn out given the results. The election was called to end a political crisis triggered by the centre-right government's collapse following allegations about corruption as well as a sex scandal. With all the votes counted, the left-wing Social Democrats won just over 20% of the vote, while its ally, the Communist Party, received just under 15%. And Georgians have been going to the polls to elect a new president to succeed Mikhail Saakashvili, who's been in power for a decade now. The vote is expected to cement the control of his rival, billionaire Prime Minister Bidzina Ivanishvili. His coalition routed Saakashvili's party in a parliamentary election a year ago. Now, exit polls suggest his chosen candidate in the election will win by a clear margin. Still, Ivanishvili has promised to step down next month and nominate a new Prime Minister. Well, a Guangzhou-based newspaper published an apology today after one of its reporters confessed to wrongdoings in exchange for money. The reporter, Chen Yongzhou, is being detained by police in the city of Changsha on suspicion of harming the reputation of a business. In a confession broadcast on state TV yesterday, Chen said greed and a desire for fame led him to take bribes and turn in stories prepared by others, alleging financial misdeeds by heavy equipment manufacturer Zoomlion. Today, the New Express newspaper said in its front-page apology it had failed to carefully review the articles before publishing them, and the improper practices had taught it a profound lesson. On Wednesday and Thursday, the newspaper printed appeals for Chen's release, saying journalists should not be prosecuted for reporting facts that may embarrass influential companies or individuals.
There was another demonstration in North District today as parents called on the government to ensure their children get a place in school. They're worried a surge in applicants for Primary 1 places, especially in the 2016 to 17 academic year, will make things even harder. Rachel Leung reports.
A group of angry parents brought along their children to protest against what they see as the government's failure to ease the demand for school places in North District. It's seen long queues outside schools in the hope of getting their children a place. Now parents are worried demand for Primary 1 places will rise further in the 2016-17 academic year because of the number of babies born in the recent year of the dragon. Although Secretary for Education Eddie Ng stressed the issue has been tackled, many parents beg to differ. Enough school places? I don't think so, this mom said. She went on to say the long queues and waiting time for interviews proves there aren't enough school places in North District. And the situation will worsen if the government continues to drag its feet. This mother of two said Tai Po has 30 kindergartens, but parents still have to queue overnight. She wondered whether her children would have to travel to Sha Tin for school in the future. Many also complained the 6 measures the Education Bureau announced earlier this month has loopholes and lacks binding power. Lawmakers say the emergency measures only shifts the burden onto kindergartens.
Obviously, the burden has been passed to the kindergarten, the teachers, the principals, and even the minor staff. For example, they are forced to distribute application forms unlimitedly. So they have to handle all the forms, all the applications, and do all the interviews. With limited capacity, the kindergartens will find it extremely difficult to handle all the applications that may amount to thousands.
The protesters plan to rally outside the central government offices tomorrow during a special LegCo education panel meeting to make their demands heard, which also includes 15 years of free education for the future generations. Rachel Lang, TVB News.
The Steering Committee on Population Policy released a consultation document a few days ago. One of the paper's focuses is on the manpower shortage Hong Kong faces in various business sectors, and it suggests the importation of labour as one of the solutions. Today, a local labour group protested against the idea. Stephanie Choi has more details.
Calling the government a disgrace, these ralliers believe importing more workers from outside the territory would leave them strapped for job opportunities.
The so-called labor shortage is a only solution.
Members of the Hong Kong Confederation of Trade Unions claimed that the policy of further importation of labor was proposed to safeguard the benefits of employers.
The Confederation believes the large number of vacancies in certain industries, such as the hotel and retail industries, is due to employers ignoring the needs of local employees. So instead of turning to foreign labor, the group thinks the population policy should focus on the benefits of local workers by, for example, providing childcare support and standardized working hours.
They also demanded that the government strengthen regulations for the supplementary labor scheme. They claimed the scheme had been abused by some employers who imported more workers than necessary.
Unfortunately, Ms. Lam is only doing the job for the employers to demand more importation of labor.
The Confederation of Trade Unions said local employees are already burdened by low wages and inflation, and importing more workers from outside would add insult to injury. Stephanie Choi, TVB News.
And finally for tonight, a new, more informal post-christening photo of the Duke and Duchess of Cambridge with their baby, Prince George, has been released. It shows the prince in the arms of his mother Catherine while his father William looks over her shoulder at his son. Prince George was christened on Wednesday with water from the River Jordan at a rare 4-generation gathering of the British royal family in London. The infant wore a replica of an intricate lace and satin gown made for Queen Victoria's eldest daughter, first used in 1841. I guess that's going to be the bestseller design in the markets now.
I guess so, yes.
That's the news for tonight.
Thanks for watching. Good night.